Masechet Yevamot Daf 16a1. So we just finished off by saying that Rabbi Yoshua came and he told them litzarot, for the tzarot themselves, to testify about them. Mityare ani, I am afraid because of the mamzerim that would come and they would basically kill him. They would knock out his head basically. And for the bnei tzarot, I mean, it's to do with the concept of the kiuna, whether they will be kosher for kiuna or not. I will testify that there were two big families that everybody was getting married to them, even though they were left without chalitza. And according to Bet Shammai, that would be a problem. The children would be pagum, but they were serving on the mizbeach. So obviously, we were going like Bet Hillel. Tashema, we're going to now bring a proof. During the days of Bidosa ben Orkinas, who trat sarat bat lachin. It was permitted sarat bat lachin. So this is a proof that what? That Bet Shammai did like their words. Because you see from here that during the days of Bidosa ben Orkinas, they actually did it. Shema mina asu shema mina. So therefore you learn from here that they do like their words. The shema mina, and that's exactly what we wanted to bring a proof. Okay? Fine. Now we're going to actually bring these words completely of Rabbi Dosa ben Orkinas. Gufa. It was stated, because we just stated the Braita of Rabbi Dosa ben Orkinas. Now we're going to explain the entire Braita. And it says like this: Rabbi Dosa ben Orkinas, hetiru tzarat bat lachin. During the days of tzarat of Rabbi Dosa ben Orkinas, they permitted tzarat bat lachin. Now remember, tzarat bat is considered irva, right? That's what we said. And it was very difficult for the rabbis, because he was a very big chacham. And he was very, very weak from coming to the Bet HaMidrash. Okay? So they said, so since he didn't come to the Bet HaMidrash, they said, who's going to tell him that everybody else is not in agreement with psak? He just came and he wanted to permit Tzarata Bat Lachim, which is like Bet Shammai. You should go like Bet Hillel. Amar Lahen, they told him of Yoshua, I'm going to go. So Rabbi Yoshua comes and he says, I'm going to go, and I'm going to let him know. Ve'acharav mi, who else is going to go? Because the rabbis were asking, well, you're going to send one guy. You need a few. So they said, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Ve'acharav mi, and who else? He says Rabbi Akiva. So they went and they sent 3 Gedolim. Okay, these are the 3 Gedolim, right, to come and to tell him that they were against the psak. So they went. Remember, it's Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and Rabbi Akiva. And they went to the entrance of his house. So the shivcha came in and she told Rabbi Dosa, Rabbi, Chachmei Yisrael ba'in letzcha. All Chachmei Yisrael are here to visit you. So Amarla, so he told her, Yikansu, they should come in. And they came in. Tafsol Rabbi Yoshua. So he took Rabbi Yoshua, because he knew Rabbi Yoshua. So he put him on a bed of gold. Remember, in the olden days, there was no chairs. Right? It was a bed. So they put him on a bed of gold. Right? Why? Because basically he knew Rabbi Yoshua, even though that he was, because he was also Zaken. Right? And therefore immediately he comes and he puts him down. So Amarlo, so now comes Rabbi Yoshua to Rabbi Dosa, Rabbi tells him, tell your other Talmid to sit. Now, right? He comes and he says, Amarlo, mihu, who is it? Meaning he didn't even know who's the other Talmid. He didn't know. He heard, Rabbi Yoshua, I know who Rabbi Yoshua is. Who's the other Talmid? So he says, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, right? The Rabbi Elazar, the son of Azariah. So Amar, right? So Amar, he said, V'yesh ben Azariah chaveren? What? Azariah was my friend. Does Azariah have a son? Right? That means Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So he comes and he says, does he have a son? Kara alav. So because of that, he went and he said, Mikra zeh this pasuk, Na ra'iti gam zakanti, ve'lo ra'iti tzadik ne'ezav, ve'zaro mevakesh lachem. Which means, at the beginning he was a na'ad. Now he became elderly. Na ra'iti gam zakanti. Ve'lo ra'iti. I never saw a tzaddik that was forsaken and his children are asking for bread. So therefore, obviously, right, he's coming and saying that even though I became older and I didn't see the tzaddik Azariah pass away, right? But I did see the Lazar, which is the child. So he was giving like a hint that they were actually ashirim uflagim. They were very, very rich, right? So he comes and he says, this is the son of my good friend, right? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, right? Azariah was his good friend. So he comes and he says, Tefaso. Again, he took him and he put him on a mitash shazav as well. Amarlo, now comes Rabbi Yoshua. Now remember, out of kavod, he said Talmidecha, your student. Because if he never knew Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, or he never knew now Rabbi Akiva, well, he's saying your student. Out of kavod, he was giving it to this big rabbi. He says, your student. So he says, Amar lo, he tells him, Rebbe, Emor Talmidecha acher b'yashem. Tell your other Talmid to sit. Amar lo, he says, Umi, who is he? Akiva ben Yosef. Yeah, Rabbi Akiva. So he says, right? Amar lo, he comes and he says, Atahu Akiva ben Yosef, sheshimcha olef misof haolam ad sofo. He says, what? Are you the famous, right? We call him Rabbi Akiva, but are you the famous Akiva ben Yosef, that your name is going from one part of the world to the other part of the world? Shev beni shev. Sit, my son, sit. Yeah? Kemotcha shirbu b'Yisrael. Halvai that there should be a lot of people like you in Am Yisrael. Right? So imagine how great he was. That again, that means basically he even heard of who was Rabbi Akiva. You understand? So itchinu mesabevim oto b'halachot. So they went and they started asking him in a whole bunch of different halachot. Ad shehigiu tzarat habat. So they didn't go straight for the kill. They didn't come in and right away, what's halachat tzarat habat? They started going all around, right? Until finally they got to tzarat habat. When they get to tzarat habat, amrule, they told him, tzarat habat ma'u. What's halachat to do with tzarat habat? Amar lahen, he told them, machloket bet Shammai bet Hillel. It's machloket bet Shammai bet Hillel. Halacha kedivrei mi. So what's halacha? So he went and he told them, Amar lahen, halacha ke bet Hillel, the halacha is like bet Hillel. Amrule, they told him, v'alo mishimcha amru lecha ke bet Shammai. But 1 second, but in your name, they're saying the halacha is like bet Shammai. You just told us the truth. Halacha is like bet Hillel. But they're saying in your name something completely different. So he says, Amar lahem, dosa shematem, or ben orkinos shematem. He didn't even say ben dos. What's it called? He didn't even say Rabbi dosa ben orkinas. He said, did you hear my name? Dosa, or the son of Orkinos, which means it could also be a brother. Because Ben Orkinos just means the son of Orkinos. Rabbi dosa ben Orkinos was one boy. So he says, who did you hear? Amrullah, they went and they said, right, Chayer Rebbe, they said in the Lashon of Shavua, right, Ben Orkinos Stam Shaman. We just heard Ben Orkinos. We didn't hear the first name. We just heard Ben Orkinos. We obviously inferred that it was you. Amar lahem, he told them, which one? 1 minute. Says the Gemara, Amar lahem, he told them, Ach katan yeshli, bechor satanhu. Yeah, listen to what he said. First of all, he said, Ach katan yeshli. Right? So he says, I've got a smaller brother, right? But then he says, but bechor satanhu. What does it mean, bechor satanhu? He's very, very charif, right? He's very, very sharp, okay? And he's very strong, and therefore he will go against the Chachamim, even if the majority of the Chachamim are against him. V'Yonatan Shemo. His name is Yonatan ben Dosa. Vehu mitalmidei Shammai. And he is from the students of Shammai. But be very, very careful, right? Because he's sharp, not smart.
Yeah,
he's sharp, and therefore, since he's very, very sharp, he will win you in halachot. Which means, even though it could be that the halacha is not like that, right? And by the way, the exact same yesod was brought down by David HaMelech with Kilav. Kilav was Daniel, his son, right? But he was called Kilav. Why? Because David HaMelech had a Rebbe called Mephibosheth. And even though the halacha was like David Bechol Makom, Mephibosheth was also very, very smart. And therefore, many times he would come and he would ask questions against David and he would stump him. And David didn't have the answer. But David was right. The halacha was like David HaMelech. But because of the, the pilpul and this and that, he comes and he forced him into a corner, as they say, and now, so David didn't want to pass him like that. So then Kilav, right, which was the Machlim Av, that's what the Rosh Tevot was. This is based in the Gemara Berachot. It's Machlim Av, which means he went and he embarrassed back, meaning he went and he was able to fight back Mephibosheth to show him that the halacha was be'emet like his father David. And that's why David HaMelech was so happy that he had a child that was able to actually show afterwards that be'emet the halacha was like me. And I was correct in the psak. Okay? So the exact same thing, he comes and he tells him, be careful. Right? Why? He has 300 different proofs, right, that tzarat habat should be permitted. So imagine if you guys are going to even come and go against him, even though I'm going to tell you the Lachazak Bet Hillel, and you're going to say the Lachazak Bet Hillel, he'll prove to you with 300 proofs that the Lachazak Bet Shammai, and therefore you'll be forced, right, to come and to what? And go like him. And you would be forced to permit it. Aval, however, though, me'idani alai shamayim va'aretz, right? I am testifying, right? It's testifying on me. Shamayim va'aretz, shal meducha zo yashav Chagai HaNavi. Chagai HaNavi came, and he was from the last of the Nevi'im, okay? And he came and he did, right? And he said, ve'amar shlosha dvarim, and he said 3 different halachot. Number 1, Tzarat Bat Asura. So for Chagai HaNavi, right, he came and this is the psak. So the Nevi'im Acharonim came and they gave a psak. What's a psak? Like Bet Hillel, not like Bet Shammai. Number 2, Ammon u'Moav me'asrin ma'aser ani, bashvit. Number 2, halacha number 2, Ammon and Moab were the different cities, right, beside the land of Israel. So Ammon and Moab, the Jews that are living there, right, they are able to take off Ma'aser Ani during the year of Shevit, which means that we know that in every single year other than Shemitah, you have to give off Ma'asrot, right? Whether it's going to be Ma'aser Sheni or Ma'aser Ani. That was what I asked you yesterday, the doctor. Yeah? So he says now all of a sudden, he's coming and saying they could actually give off Ma'aser Ani. They could be lenient and give off Ma'aser Ani in Ammon and Moav during Shemitah, which means they're allowed to actually come and do Shemitah and they're allowed to work on Shemitah and everything. Number 3, Mekablim Gerim Mina Karduyim Mina Turmudim. They accept Gerim, that means they're going to accept converts from the Karduyim and Tarmudim. We're going to explain each one. So Tana, we learned in a Braita, Keshenichnesu, right? Do you know that when Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi Elazar, Nazariah, Rabbi Kiva, when they came in, Nichnesu bepetach echad, they came into one entrance. That means all 3 of them came in through the same door. Keshiyatsu, when they left, Yatsu b'shlosha ptachim. They came out in 3 different doors. Okay, one of them is in order that Yonatan should not catch all 3 of them in one shot, and then they would be forced to say that the halacha is like him. Okay, other people said the exact opposite. They wanted to find Yonatan, and they wanted to hear his actual, what does he actually say? You understand? So whichever explanation, whether they were trying to run away from him, right, or they were trying to find him, but they went out in 3 different doors. Now what happened? Pagabo Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was the one that found, right, this Yonatan ben Dosa, right, the brother of Rabbi Yorkanos ben Dosa. The Akshile, the Ukme. He started asking him the questions, and he won him. Meaning Yonatan won Rabbi Akiva, right? And that's why. So whichever opinion you want, right? Whether it was, think about it. If all 3 of them came together, and then he would have won all 3 in halachot, they would have been forced to paskin like him. Now they didn't want to do that because they already know that they're not supposed to do that. So they're not together. So now even if he's going to find one of them, there's still 2 against 1. So therefore, even if now he doesn't 2 against 1, we paskin like the majority. No, for sure not. Amarlo, he tells him, Yonatan tells him, Atau Akiva, sheshimcha olech misof haolamvad sofo? Are you Akiva, that your name goes from one part of the world to the other part of the world? Ashrecha shezachita leshem. Fortunate are you that you have such a name. V'adayin lo igata l'roeh bakar. But you still didn't even get to roeh bakar. You know what that means? It means, mamash, you're a shepherd still. You don't, you're a nothing, basically. Amarlo comes and he tells him, Rabbi Akiva, va'afilu leroet son. Not only roeh bakar, because roeh bakar is a higher level. I'm not even roet son, right? I didn't even, which means this is the anava of Rabbi Akiva, that even though Yonatan came and he was just mizalzelbo, he came and disgraced him. He told him that he's like a nothing. And you know who Rabbi Akiva was, in a sense. So imagine, you're like a nothing. He comes and he says, no, I'm not even roet son. You said that I'm a roeh bakar. I'm not even roet son. I'm only going to be like roet son, which means, right, not even like roet son, right? Which one? Yes, exactly, 100%. 100%. Yeah, right. That's what he's saying. So he's saying, I didn't even get to become a roet son, right? You're telling me I'm a roeh bakar, right? That I'm not even a roeh bakar. I'm not even a roet son. I'm a lower level. Okay, fine. Now says the Gemara, Ammon u'Moav me'asrin ma'aser ani b'shvit. So Ammon u'Moav, they're going to take off ma'aser ani during Shvit. The Amar Mor, was Mor says, Harbe krachim kavshu ole Mitzrayim velo kavshu ole Bavel. There was a lot of different cities, right, when they came to Eretz Yisrael, that ole Mitzrayim. Remember, there were two aliyot. One of them was from Mitzrayim to Eretz Yisrael, and that was during the time of Yoshua bin Nun, when they conquered the land of Israel. And then there was Ezra Sofer, when he came up from Babylonia, from Babel, to Eretz Yisrael. So there was a lot of cities that they went and they sanctified, meaning they went and they made it holy to become the Kiddusha of Eretz Yisrael, Ole Mitzrayim. But Ole Bavel, they didn't do this. And the first Kiddusha of Eretz Yisrael was only sanctified during that moment, but not forever. Which means the fact that it was only done that moment and not forever, afterwards, the second time around, if they didn't sanctify those same cities, all of a sudden those cities stayed off the map. And they left it there for purposely. Why? In order the Adaniyim, during the year of Shemitah, since they were so poor, they didn't have anything. So what do? They purposely didn't sanctify those cities. So therefore, in those places that they didn't sanctify, they could go there, the Aniyim, and they could take leket, shikha, pe'ah, ma'aserani, they could take all these things, right? And there's no problem whatsoever. And therefore, they purposely did it in such a fashion. Okay? Next, mekablin gerim min hakarduyim v'tarmudim. So you're going to accept, right, gerim from the karduyim v'tarmudim. Says the Gemara, any is it so? You're not allowed to accept gerim from the karduyim. Okay, so this is against what Chagai Navi said, right? And again, this is what Rabbi Dosa accepted from Chagai Navi. So Ravashi says it wasn't karduyim, kartuyim itmar. It was kartuyim and not karduyim. Okay, they're different nations. Okay, so one of them was psulim to go into the kahal. Okay, now by the way, okay, we're going to see exactly what exactly what we're going to see. So now it says the Gemara, right? Just like people say, kartuyim psulim hem. The kartuyim are psulim. The kartuyim with a tav, not with a dalet. The ikadamni, and some people say, Tani Rabbi Yecheskel mekablim gerim min kartuyim from the kartuyim, so mefurash from the kartuyim. Is it not the same thing? I knew kartuyim. Amar Ravashi lo, kartuye lechud vekartuye lechad. They're two different nations, right? Just like people say, kartuye psile. The kartuyim are psulim. Okay? Rabbi Yochanan v'Savia, the Amri Tarvayu. Rabbi Yochanan and Savia is the name of a rabbi. The Amri Tarvayu, both of them said, Em mekablim gerim min tarmodim. They both said that you're not allowed to accept gerim from the tarmodim. So the karduyim or kartuyim, now we answered up. Now we're talking about tarmodim. So ask the Gemara, does Rabbi Yochanan actually say this? But now we learned in the Mishnah Nida. Kol haktamim abayim min harekem teorim. Any ketem that comes from rekem, right, is going to be tahor. Rabbi Yehuda, right? Rekem is a city, right? And he comes and he says, Rabbi Yehuda, right? He comes and he says, right? Metameh. Why? Mipnei shehem gerim v'toim. Right? What does that mean? Because they are, the Toshvei Rekem are goyim, right? And be'emet they're gerim v'toim, and they make a mistake, right? And they come and they do like avodah zarah, right? Even be'emet, they are Jews, right? They are Jews that just went off the path. So because of that, the ktamim, but the ktamim benov dekachim teorim. Obviously, a ketem found by a goy is permitted, which means if a goy has a ketem, it's permitted. But here they were Jews, but they were acting like goyim, but they were 100% Jews. So because of that, that's why he comes and he says that it's going to be metameh va'avinamba. So we come. Which one?
Yeah, they're not Jews.
No. One more time. I'll read to you again. You guys are not listening, right? One more time. Rabbi Yehuda metameh mipnei shehem gerim. What does that mean? He says they are like gerim v'toim, and they come and they act like goyim. But be'emet, they are Jews. And what happened? They were, right, emira datam, which means like this. Any Jew, whether a Jew by birth or a Jew by conversion, is always a Jew. Okay. Right? They're always a Jew. Now, to ask the following question, right, on the Mishnah. Tetzayin Mubet, 16b. Kapasik vetani, the Mishnah comes and it says, Mi ben ovdei kochavim, that it's going to be tahor. Va'afilu min haTalmud, even from Talmud. Now, since the Toshvei Talmud are becheskat ovdei kochavim, right? Because if we had a doubt now, maybe be'emet they're Yisraelim, it should have been tameh. Rabbi Yochanan says, Zotomeret, you see from here, Mekablim Gerim Talmud. Right? Why? Because we have no safek that they're Yisrael Mamzerim. So therefore, since we have no safek that they're Yisrael Mamzerim, we are allowed to come and we're allowed to accept converts from them. So you see from here that there's a stira. You just told me that we don't accept Gerim from Talmud, and here we just said that Zotomeret Mekablim Gerim Talmud. So says the Gemara, Vechitim, and now you're going to tell me Zot velo sirle, which means when you say Zotomeret, this means to say he's just telling you from here we learn like this, but I myself don't hold of that, right? Rabbi Yochanan says this is a Stam Mishnah. Stam Mishnah means a Mishnah that there's no machloket in the Mishnah. If you have a Stam Mishnah and nobody argues with the Mishnah, we paskin like the Mishnah. You understand? That means if you have a Stam Mishnah and it tells you halacha, we paskin that way. So answers the Gemara, you're right. What happens? Amorai ninu v'alibad Rabbi Yochanan. It's a machloket amoraim in the shitat of Rabbi Yochanan, which means what is that Rabbi Yochanan? Does Rabbi Yochanan actually hold that you're not going to accept Gerim from the Talmudim? And therefore you argues on the other Ta'amura that said in the Rabbi Yochanan that you are allowed to. Why? Because you paskin like this Tam Mishnah. So now the Gemara is going to say, okay, fine, but why not? So he says, Mi Tarmon my Tamalo. What's the reasoning why you wouldn't accept Gerim from Talmud? Fliga about Rabbi Yochanan v'Savia, there's machlok between Rabbi Yochanan v'Savia. Chadam, one of them says, Mishum avdei Shlomo. What happened? The servants of Shlomo Melech. That what happened? They went and they got married to Benot Israel. So here it says, right, when since they were very, very rich, right, and they were very strong, right, the Avadim Kranim of Shlomo Melech came and they got married, right, to Benot Israel. So therefore, their children, they started living in Talmud. So imagine, meaning the Goyim came, they got married to the Jewish girls, and then they started married to, then they started living in Talmud. So because of Avdei Shlomo, one of them says, Mishum Benot Yerushalayim, because of the daughters of Yerushalayim. What does it mean, the daughters of Yerushalayim? The Gemara is going to explain. I understand according to Mandamar Mishum Avdei Shlomo, because of the Shlomo, because he holds, Oved Kochavim Ve'eved Abal Bat Yisrael Avav Lamzeh. There's a shita in the Gemara that says that when you have a goy or an eved that has relations with a normal Jewish woman, the child is a mamzer. So for these are avadim. They came and they had relations with Jewish women. So now for the children are mamzerim. And they went and they started living in Talmud. So we don't accept gerim from Talmud. However, though, according to the Manda Amar Mishum Benot Yerushalayim, because the daughters of Yerushalayim, what is that? Mahi. So he says, speak about Rav Yosef and Rabbanan. There's a machlok between Rav Yosef and Rabbanan. The Tarvayu Mishmed Rav Chana. Both of them said in the name of Rav Chana. Chadamar, one of them says, Treisar Alfe Gavra Veshita Alfe Kashtuye. There was 12,000 men, and there was another 6,000 bow and arrows, meaning you had like 12,000 infantry and the 6,000 bow and arrows. The Chadamar, one of them says, no, it was 12,000 men, Treisar Alfe Gavre, Uminayhu Shita Alfe Kashtuye. And of the 12,000, 6,000 were bow and arrows. Bow and arrows were like the snipers, if you want to call them. Okay, that they were shooting from far. The Shash Nichnasu Ovdei Kochavim LaEchal, when the Ovdei Kochavim came into the Echal during the time of the destruction of the first Bet HaMikdash, Hakol Nifnu Al Ketz V'Zav, they all went and ran for gold and silver. Meaning the Bet HaMikdash was full of gold and silver. So the first thing that they did, and they wanted to ransack, and they wanted to take all the gold and silver. But these people on Shat Tzava, Nifnu Al Birot Yerushalayim, they went straight for the girls. Right? They went for Birot Yerushalayim. Shneimar says in a pasuk in Necha, Nashim Betzion Inu Betulot Be'arei Yehuda. Nashim, they came and they afflicted the women of Tzion. Right? They afflicted Tzion. Betulot Be'arei Yehuda. So therefore, they're mamzerim because of them. That's why we're not going to accept gerim from Talmud. Okay? So now we're going to go back to what we mentioned before. Because now we just analyzed the three different parts. Right? We analyzed the Tzarat Mita. We analyzed now about the entire concept of the Ani, Maaser Ani and Shavi'it in Ammon and Moab. And now we analyze the concept of do they accept Gerim or not from the Karduim and Talmudim and why yes and why not. Now the Gemara goes back and says, Amar Rabbi Shmuel ben Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan, says Rabbi Shmuel ben Yonatan, Pasuk Zeh, Sar HaOlam Amaro. Right, this Pasuk was said by Sar HaOlam. What does it mean, Sar HaOlam? It's the Malach, that the entire world is Masur Biyado, which means he's the Shliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to do all the things in the land. He's called Sar HaOlam. Okay? Interesting, because Chaim Kanievsky was called Sar HaTorah, right, which is the thing. So Amaro, so he said, Narayiti Gam Zakenti. What does that mean? I was young and then I became elderly. So he says, Mana Mara. Who's the one that said this? So if you're going to tell me it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mika Zikna Kame, is there Zikna? Is there elderliness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Then he's saying, Nara iti gam zakanti. Ela, rather, David Amare. It's written in Tehillim. So David HaMelech said it. So he says, Mikashish Kulehai. Was David HaMelech that old? How old was David when he passed away?
70.
Right, 70 years old. That's so called, old. So he says, Ela Shmamina, but rather this comes to teach you, Sar HaOlam Amaro. It was Sar HaOlam, right, that he said this. Okay, so Sar HaOlam said it. Ve'amar Rav Shmuel Nachman, name Rabbi Yonatan. Says Rav Shmuel Nachman, name Rabbi Yonatan. What does it mean in the pasuk? Yado paras sar al kol machmadea. Ze Amon Moav. So Amon Moav, their hands, right, went on all their desirable things. The shash nichlesu v'koyun le'echal, hakol nifnu al kesef zahav. Ve'em nifnu al sefer Torah. They went and they took the sefer Torah. Meaning Amon Moav, right, they went straight for the sefer Torah. They didn't care about gold. They didn't care about silver. Why did they take the sefer Torah? Amru, they said, Zeh shekatuv bo lo yavo amonim moavi bikal Hashem yisaref ba'esh. The Torah goes against Amonim and Moavim. It says that they're not allowed to get intermarried into Am Yisrael. So what did they do? They took the Sefer Torah and they wanted to burn it. Right? Why? Because the Sefer Torah went against them. Okay, another drasha. Tziva Hashem liYaakov Tzivat Tzara, which means HaKadosh Baruch Hu Gazar, he made a decree that those. No, this is Echa, right? Lo yavo amonim b'oavi. Yes. No, but I'm talking about now. Tziva Hashem liYaakov Tzivat Tzarav. He says HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a decree that the same nations which are causing suffering for Bnei Yisrael in their lands are going to cause sufferings for Bnei Yisrael in the Galut as well. So Amar Rav says, Kigon Homania in Babel. Homania were Ammonim. They were living in this city of Homania, right? Lepumnara. They were causing the suffering to Pumnara, which basically they were causing all these Jews suffering in the land of Pumnara. And these are again Ammonim. So for the same ones which are causing the problems to the Jews, Ammon Moav in Eretz Yisrael are the same ones that are going to cause the problems for the Jews in exile. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Vasi, he says of Yehuda name Vasi, Oved Kochavim Shekidesh was Marazeh, right? And Oved Kochavim, that he came and he sanctified, right? The Israelite, right? What does that mean? That he did Kiddushin is Marazeh, Choshin le Kiddushin. So therefore, if you have a goy that he comes and he does Kiddushin to a Israelite, nowadays we're going to expect it. Why? Shema me'aseret hashvatim. Maybe he's from the 10 lost tribes. So maybe Bemet is Jewish and he's from the 10 lost tribes. So says the Gemara, how could that be? V'akol de parish v'ruba parish. Whenever you have anybody that separates from the majority, they separate, which means the majority of the world are the Jews or non-Jews? Non-Jews. So even if you're going to tell me now that there's the 10 lost tribes, right? If they separated from the majority of the world and they came and they did Kiddushin to a woman, right? That guy is separated from the majority. He comes from the majority of Goyim. Why are you even suspecting it? So answers the Gemara, we're talking about in one of the places where the Aseret HaShvatim are Kavua. And therefore, since it's Kavua becomes Mechza, it becomes like half and half, which means it becomes Sapek Shakul. It becomes a doubt which is equal. So I don't know anymore who it is. So maybe it's a Jew. So maybe since it's a Jew from the 10 lost tribes, so if we're going to suspect it was Kiddushin. The Amar Rabbi Abba Kana says, Rabbi Abba Kana, Vayanchem Bachlach, right? Lachlach, Chabor, Nehar Gozan, Ve'are Madai. What does that mean? Chlachlach is Chalzon, is Chazon. Chavor is Chadiab. Nehar Gozan is Ginzak, and Are Madai is Chamdan v'Chavrotea. Ve'amri Lasam says Zoniyar v'Chavrotea. Chavrotea man, Amar Shmuel, Kerach Mushchechit Kivdom which means, Amar Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, V'kulan lepsul, which means, here the majority of them are psulim litchaten bekahal, and therefore here basically we're going into the entire concept of how do we know where were the 10 tribes, where they were exiled, right? And according to that, we obviously are going to continue with Zat Hashem tomorrow.